Happy Saturday. Wow, screwed that one up. I wanted to be Saturday bad, I guess. Happy Friday. Uh, Today is Friday. I think it is the 30th. It is the last day of September. It is the 273rd day of the year. There are 92 days left in 2022, which means there's 85 days left until Christmas. And in a week, not only will we have been done away with the 100s here in Vegas, we will be doing away with the 90s pretty soon here. My favorite time of year. I can't say it enough every show. Thank you all for being here. Medium week, as far as news goes, most of it is BS. Most of the stuff that probably we're going to discuss in short measure today is basically nonsense headlines. And the problem with headlines is that we tend to think that being able to get on the internet is like a master's degree and that reading a headline means we actually know something. There are two specific headlines that were released, both of them in regards to Warner Brothers Discovery, that are for the most part, in my opinion, bullshit. We'll get to those two. And of course, the internet exploded over the Wolverine addition to Deadpool 3. I love Hugh Jackman in that role. I mean, Logan is in my top 10 as far as all-time great movies ever made, as far as comic book movies goes. I said goodbye to him then, never expecting to see him again. So, hey, seeing him again, I always say never say never. If it's the right story, do it. That goes in regards to sequels. I don't believe that, we don't need a sequel for this. That's bullshit too. If there's story to tell, tell it. If there's story to tell for a character, continue to tell that character story. That's it for me. I'm really simple. Now, as far as Deadpool movies goes, of all comic book movies that I don't hate, Deadpool is my least favorite. It's one of the only few comic book movies that I have not seen any of in the actual theater itself. I watched them on the small screen. And I'll get into my reasons of that. Don't hate Deadpool. I remember when Fabian Nicieza and Rob Liefeld first created that character, and it was a very much different character than he is now. He's kind of evolved into a wisecracking, like comedic type of figure, and that's fine. I mean, I never, there was always so many comics to buy that. I mean, if Deadpool wanted to be that way, I didn't. There was more stuff to buy. I just never bought the book. I get it every week. It's on the or every month. It's on the shelf. I don't read it anymore, so it's not like Daredevil or not Daredevil. Like he's right next to Daredevil on the show. Deadpool just never moved the needle for me on any medium. But like I said, there's a lot of people that seem to be happy about Deadpool 3 and to be ecstatic. I mean, the internet exploded over Hugh Jackman's return. But let me go ahead and water down the show real quick and bring in Thade. Hey, what's up, Thade?
Hey, what's up, man?
Not much. All right, so let's go ahead and say hi to the chat. I saw some comments in here before I got on.
Found a new picture of Valerian the Dread.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm going to see Black Adam too, but I think it'll just be on an average comic movie. You know what, though, Vince? That may be 100% true, but most comic book movies are average. I've learned. I've seen almost 30 Marvel movies, and every DC movie, most comic book movies are average. The hype that surrounds a comic book movie is outsized, but out of the, like I've always said, I've been saying this for years, out of the somewhat 30 movies that Marvel has released, half of them were a waste of my time. They weren't awful movies, but they weren't up to the hype. What's happened with comic book movies in general is there is a very, about a quarter of them are excellent. A quarter of them are some of the great movies that have ever been released, period. They're up there. I don't care what Scorsese says. Certain comic book movies are just up there in the atmosphere of great movies, period, no matter what genre they are. And what ends up happening, as I always say, the rising tide lifts all ships. There's a lot of mediocre movies that have been brought up to a higher level financially and stature-wise because they're on the same tide as really good movies. There's a lot of Marvel movies that just were average or below average, but because they got caught up in that hype machine, they got the benefit of the doubt. People went to go see them, so which is why when all these Marvel movies are on the screen at Comic-Con, I'm like, it just hurt my head. It's because I know a good percentage of those things are going to be a waste of time, but that I'll cover them anyway. So Black Adam very well be an average movie, but that would make it like 70% of all comic book movies in general, in my opinion. That's me. Might be an unpopular opinion, but that's all right. Kenneth Corrales Jr., thanks for being here. DC Films and DCU, in my view, only began to scratch the surface of what they can bring to the DC universe in the modern era of the big screen. Yeah, I agree 100%. I think under management that prioritizes the important characters and uses those important characters to breathe life into all other characters, I think you're right 100%. Let's see, Chappie. Hi guys, thank you for showing. Yeah, I love that intro too, man. I was thinking Megadeth when I was looking for that song under the public domain thing, so I didn't get sued by anything. I wanted something faster, but this one does it for me. So yeah, I love it, and I love nuclear. I happen to live in the city where that footage I think took place, the nuclear footage. So it's always fun. Lord Vader and Aquaman. Yep, I'm about to move Aquaman over though. He's got to go with the Justice League, and Vader is actually going over to the Star Wars Lounge area, where ironically where all this setup will go eventually. When I get all that set up, so you'll see Vader, but not over there, and then Aquaman you won't see it all. The Batman behind me will actually. There's a mannequin that we have set up in one of the areas, and that Batman cowl will go on that Batman mannequin, and that mannequin will go onto the Batman section. One of these days, I'm going to give you guys a tour of these sections, and there's an area where we're using stuffing, and we have a bat light where we replace the ceiling tiles, and that bat light will shine into that stuffing, and the bat signal will be on it, and that will be where the bat section is. Okay, sad news for wrestling fans. Oh wow, Antonio Inoki has passed away. I thought, hold on, when did that go down? That must have, wait a minute. Hold on. I don't know why.
Let's see. Today in Japan. It's already October 1st in Japan, so.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That had to have just, wow.
Like, just happened.
I just got a text about it. Yep. I just got a text from New Japan World about it. I'll be damned. Well, holy cow. Rest in peace. We talk wrestling a lot on this show. And for those of you who watch this show, you know we just don't talk about American wrestling. We talk about AAA, all over the world. And Japan is
yeah, they just reported it an hour ago.
Yeah, I mean, holy cow. Antonio Inoki. Okay, so let me give you just how important he is to Japanese wrestling. He's the equivalent as far as a founding member of New Japan Wrestling, he's the equivalent of what Vince McMahon, not the Vince McMahon we know today, but his father. He founded and this is the 50th anniversary of New Japan Wrestling. And he founded New Japan Wrestling. Those belts that you guys see me wearing, those are both New Japan belts, not the Ric Flair one. And a lot of careers have been made by. He's no longer a part of it now, but a lot of careers were given their ground level by what he put into motion. He put Japanese wrestling on the map. He kept it there during the lull that all wrestling was going through. He made, his company is why you have All Elite Wrestling, to be honest with you, because every one of those guys were in New Japan and Ring of Honor before they came here. He is, wow. He is, I mean, I could spend the next hour with the accolades that he's done, but he is I mean, he's huge. He was a politician in Japan. He was. I mean, you look at this Wikipedia page; it's literally a Bible. But for a guy like me, that name is big. If there were an overall Mount Rushmore and it would be more than 4 heads on it, he's on. I know he's on. He's on there. Vince McMahon's on there. Jim Crockett is on there, and I'm talking pure promotion. And Antonio Inoki's on there. I mean, he's wow. That's you know, what I wonder what he. I mean, it doesn't give a lot of information. What he passed on. What he passed on.
They haven't given any information. I was just looking for it.
Yeah.
Like I said, the news just came out like an hour ago. So.
And he was 79.
Yeah.
Which is not a spring chicken, by the way, but it's not hell. I mean, you know, that's not old. I mean, that's not, you know, but I don't know what kind of health issues he had towards the end there. I mean, a lot of these guys that are dying, you know, not everybody lives to be 100 years, but I mean, I didn't know that he was in any health. Inoki died on October 1st, 2022, after battling with multiple. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. It does show his cause of death. Yeah. Okay. Inoki died on October 1st, 2022. Later is battling. The latter was battling multiple health issues, derivating. God, they really fucked this up. Somebody out did this. Systemic transthyretin amyloidosis. I don't know what that is. Okay. Wild type translucent amyloid. Okay. Also known as senile systematic amyloidosis, is abbreviated ATTR, is a disease that typically affects the heart and tendons of elderly people. Okay. So he had cardiac conditions that were.
It's a buildup of proteins around the heart, kidneys, liver, and other organs.
Wow.
It basically plaque.
We will cover this with give it a lot more attention that it deserves on our extended show tomorrow night. But yeah, thanks Jet for bringing that to that attention. I mean, I'm literally getting text about it now because New Japan has a show tonight. You can rest assured they're going to give him a 10-bell salute. Wow.
Yeah.
All right, let's see, Chappie. Love your Darth Vader. Yeah, Darth Vader is cool. I had a Jedi one too. Like I said, the store is like literally like an attic. This is one of them. All right. When it comes to BS headlines, Bruce Wayne said in BBS, "Don't believe everything you hear." So yeah, I don't. And but what is funny about it is though I'm surrounded by people who are much smarter, but they jump on these headlines and then they throw them out there, like you know. Like I saw one thing on Twitter, which I should have followed my own rule and stayed the fuck off of Twitter, but I need to get to it to be able to get links and all that out there. But they put on where Deadpool is has is getting Hugh Jackman back, which is great. But they had to look what's going on in DC and they're being sued, and they put it like side by side as if there was some kind of comparison. We're gonna get to that DC lawsuit here in a second too, because I'm gonna shred that because somebody may deserve to be sued, but it's not the target of the lawsuit. But we'll get into that after I say hi to everybody. That's totally fine. Deadpool isn't for everyone. I love Deadpool 1 and 2. I'm super. Yeah, and like I said, when I say Deadpool's not for me, I'm only saying that it's just not for me. I'm not saying it sucked or anything like that. I am not a comedy guy. So Deadpool was never in my wheelhouse. I don't pay to see comedies. I can barely sit through comedies when I'm at home. I am science fiction, I am horror, I am fantasy, and I can take some humor in there. I don't mind jokes being cracked. I don't mind there being comic relief and all that in there. I shy away from things that are designed to be comedic first. And to me, Deadpool, from whenever all the ones I've seen, it was just there to make you laugh and entertain you in a way that's just not for me. For those of you who love Deadpool and continue to enjoy Deadpool, I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine now. So my problem with, and we'll dive in deeper when we start to cover it. Um, everybody looks at what Disney has done, what MCU has done, and the DCU Studio has done since they basically came about. There is a certain template that that company has, and there's a certain style that they have followed. Hey, and it works for them. I'm not telling them to change it. I'm not knocking it, but there is a certain stylism that was spawned from the Fox studios that I think paved the way for a lot of what we have now. And if it weren't for Fox Studios, you wouldn't have gotten a Logan under Disney. You wouldn't have gotten that. You wouldn't have gotten a Deadpool under Disney. Their movies are designed to appeal to the widest audience possible. And Deadpool's not one of those characters. Wolverine was never one of those characters from paper to film. Wolverine was never meant to appeal. And Logan is a very grim, violent movie that was not meant to appeal. Now, can Marvel and DC do that, or not DC, Disney do that? Yeah, but is it not their norm? They have a formula that works for them, and it's great. Fox had a formula that works for them. I don't want to see a neutered Deadpool if I do see it, because, like I said, even though the style of storytelling is not necessarily for me, it is what it is. I would rather not see, them change. And apparently they're giving Ryan Reynolds full control, so that's great. Fingers crossed. I don't know what kind of Wolverine I'm getting, though, because once again, you're fitting that Wolverine back into that Deadpool world. And then the last thing I have in my head for Wolverine is Logan. So that's a tough one for me. But like I said, I'm going to be a wait and see. Maybe Deadpool 3 will be the first one I actually go to the movie theater to see. But I had no interest to go see 1 or 2 or that Christmas special. None of that. It just wasn't my movie. I sent people to them. We gave away stuff, and then we sent people to, especially the Christmas special. But me personally, I just not my deal. So when everybody got excited and was blowing up messages and everything else, I'm like, wow, that's good. Good for him. Good for you guys. But all right. Daryl Taylor, how you doing? Hey, William, what's your opinion on Hugh Jackman coming back? Okay, there you go. One thing I will add to this one, Daryl, is the fact that eventually people are going to have to let go of me. We're going to have to let go of this version of Hugh Jackman if they are going to use him. And granted, I think it's going to be 4 to 5 years from now before you see him. It could be sooner. But Marvel is going to face something that DC was facing from its inception when they started their universe, was the fact that they didn't have any other generations to compare Wolverine to as far as live action. There was no, that's not my Wolverine. There weren't the people crapping in their diapers like they were about Batman and Superman because their childhood Superman couldn't come to life 20, 30 years later. Whereas it's going to be interesting to see how this generation accepts a new Wolverine when the only one that they've ever had was Hugh Jackman. So eventually we're going to have to say goodbye to him. I wonder how they're going to do that. I'm interested to see how they're going to do that. I'm also interested to see how, just because mutants are available, how are they going to fit them in? Is it going to be interwoven into a storyline that makes sense? Because you already have mutants in the Marvel universe now. You just never focus the storyline on them. Quicksilver was a mutant. Wanda is a mutant. They
just had another mutant show up on She-Hulk the other night, Elaquia.
Yeah, so you have mutants there. Now, are they going to focus like the rival of mutants or something like that? I'm wondering how they're going to do it, but when it comes to Marvel, like I said, the nearest thing to me that I'm caring about Marvel, that scale, is going to be Black Panther. I don't care about Secret Wars because it's so far down the line, and there's a lot of clutter in between now and Secret Wars. I don't care about Armor Wars yet. I will, but right now. The problem with MCU is just, I call this it's for clutter. There's just too much going on. And it's like a bowl or like a bottle this big, right? And you're trying to fit, 3 times as much into this bottle. Eventually, it's just too much. And I look at their slate and I'm like, it's hard for me to get excited about a lot of the stuff. A, because it's so far away, and B, because there's just so much out there. It's like gnats just hitting you in the head one after another.
Well, what I'm doing with it, William, is I'm picking and choosing for now. Stuff that I want to watch, stuff that I don't, and I'll just fill in the other stuff later when it appeals to me.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I have to do. Kenneth Corrali, I'm more of a classic comic book movie fan, like Superman, the movie, Batman 89, the Avengers, Captain America, First Avenger, because they took good takes on the characters. Yeah, I can agree with you, especially on the back end. But on the front end, like I said, I was in the movies to see Superman, most of Christopher Reeve's movies. I was in line. I was the first person in line in San Bernardino to see Batman in 1989. It was after my freshman year. The Avengers, I think, is arguably the best overall comic book movie made. It's my favorite time at a movie theater was the night we went to go see Avengers. Captain America vs. Avengers is great. So yeah, I can agree with you on that. The other stuff, Batman 89, I've outgrown Batman 89, and I was there for Batman 89. That's why when I hear people say, "Oh, Keaton's coming back," I'm like, listen, I was his target audience, and I don't care about it as much. And I'm glad that they're kind of moving away from that, because I don't want to hinge my universe on a 32-year-old version of Batman that most of the generation that's in the purchasing era has a fleeting knowledge of or doesn't care at all about. I mean, he's 70, 71. So yeah, that's a tough one for me. If you can insert him into a storyline and it makes sense, but for that to be for some time, that was what people were excited about. There's no way in hell you're going to get me excited about seeing Keaton in a Flash movie more than seeing the Flash. All right, my excitement for seeing Keaton as Batman was in 1989 and 1992 when it was time to be Batman. So let's go on to Mighty Max.
I was going to say, just real quick, the way I see Marvel is kind of like an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Hey, Frank.
There's things there, looks good. I may not eat it this time, but maybe later, Yeah.
It's just, it's all being pushed towards me at the time. When I'm standing there staring at the buffet, it's like, I'm like, I can't eat all this shit. Hey, Chappie, my favorite comic book movie of all time is Watchmen's Director Cut, Ultimate Cut. Yeah, that's actually my favorite Zack Snyder movie, period. More so than Zack Snyder's Justice League, more so than 300, more so than BBS. That is one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. It is one of the most accurate movies, in my opinion, as accurate as it could be. For a 3-hour movie, I thought he did an excellent job with that movie. So it was it's more like I said, that's up there with me. So yeah, let's see. Have you played Batman Arkham Asylum City? Because Batman Origins and Batman. No, I have not, Sean. I have not. I'm not a game guy. Sorry. What about you, Thay? Did you play that?
I've played. Let's see. I played Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Origins. I've not played Arkham Knight.
Okay, you got 3 more than me. Hold on, let me deal with the customer. What's up, man?
What's up, Will?
I would wait about 15 more minutes because remember, daylight savings, it's getting darker sooner.
Okay.
It might be.
But I'm just saying because the other half of the patio's on and these aren't.
They're on a different sensor. Remember, this sensor faces the sun. So I give it about 15 minutes or so.
All right. Sure. If not, come check on you?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they're doing an event in the plaza, and because daylight saving is happening, the lights aren't popping up. So I got keys to that. So yeah, you've played more video games than I have. So Coolio. Coolio lives here. I actually met Coolio, I think last year. He looked great. Wow. Coolio looked great. I mean, he was fit. I'm like, Coolio, I thought somebody was screwing with me. And, by the way, you guys that put RIP certain people and they're not dead yet, fuck you. All right? For the people who put fake death notifications on YouTube's, Twitter's, or any other social media, fuck you. You don't know how much damage that does to people when you open up your phone and you scroll through and you see some BS like that. I hate that. And that's what I thought this was when Coolio passed away. And I didn't realize he's only 59 years old. Once again, these guys are dropping but he had a heart issue. I haven't seen the details.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Damn. Now I got that song in my head for the wrong reasons. And Weird Al's version of it too, which is, probably his best work. But yeah, Antonio Inoki and Coolio. Gone too soon, man. Gone too damn soon. I am personally someone that loves all genre movie. It would sound great for me to say that, but I'm an asshole in that respect. I don't enjoy all genres. You know what I have. I mean, I've pretty much gone ad nauseum what I love. I don't do chick flicks. If I love superhero movies, but if it's a comedic superhero movie, like you would have to pay me and drag me into a movie theater to ever see something like Mystery Men. You would literally have to subdue me and still pay me, and I still might want a refund. That's the kind of guy I am. Is Mystery Men a great? A lot of people love it. I only remember it from the soundtrack. Somebody's at that. That's it. I would not see a movie like that, but other people love it, and I'm like, hey, congratulations, man. But I'm not an all genre guy. There's a lot of you guys in the chat that are all genre guys, and I'm broadening your horizons, and you are better people than me. I need to see the violence. I need to see the science fiction. I need to see the horror, and if there's laughter involved, it's because that one guy who's about to die cracked a joke, and we kill him off anyway. Or if it's if it's restricted humor within the context of the territory, but like I said, there's certain ones I just can't do it, and that's a me thing. That's not the right answer for everybody. There's a lot of people who can watch a romantic comedy and then 2 weeks later go see a slasher. I can't do it. My brain can only function on certain aspects of it. But congratulations to those of you who can, because I suck at it.
I'm one of those people, William.
Yeah, and I knew
there's a lot of different kinds of stuff. See, the way I am with movies is if it seems interesting, I'll watch it, but I usually allow the movie or whatever it is to go on its own merit.
Not me. I'm biased. Sorry. And that, like I said, no wrong answer to that. I just, you're not going to see me. I'm not going to watch Terms of Endearment again, ever.
No judgment from me.
Yeah. All right, Ibrahim Khan. Okay, this is a good question. Have you guys seen the new Variety article projecting Black Panther's domestic total of $400 million, a huge drop from the first? Is now you're casting a T'Challa affecting it? I think so. I don't believe that it's gonna that's the final number though.
Oh no.
Here's the problem though, and it's, even given my stop chewing so loud, damn it. Or share with the rest of us when you can't because you're like 200 miles away.
Sorry, snack.
What the hell are you eating anyway?
Smarties ropes or Sweet Tart ropes.
Oh, I know it's something with a wrapper.
Yeah, it's cherry punch. Sorry.
when you have, he's the star of the Black. It's Black Panther. It's Black Panther. The title of the movie is Black Panther, and then it's Wakanda Forever. You have a movie without the title of the character, and not everybody's buying. Well, Black Panther is a mantle. No, Black Panther is T'Challa, and they had no plans. Ryan Coogler, most of the executives at Disney and Marvel did not even know the extent of his illness or that he was even ill in the first place. So the people say, well, we don't know whether he was planning on killing him. He was not. They've stated as much. All right, most people are not.
He didn't tell anybody.
Yeah. All right, so you have a movie called Black Panther without what is recognized as the Black Panther. You could sideway it and backhand it and say, well, sure, it can be Black Panther and whatever, it can be Black Panther. The cab driver in Wakanda can be. No. Black Panther is T'Challa, and that is the expectation when you have a movie that made $1 billion like that, and you come out with a sequel to the movie. One of the main things that you might want to have in the sequel is at least the title character. Now, I read an article where they were saying, well, it was too soon to cast. Okay, he died 2 years ago. All right, by the time the movie comes out, it's literally almost 2.5 years since he passed away. So it's not like we're talking about he died in August of 2020. We're not talking about September 2020. We start shooting, or we release this movie then. So there was plenty enough time. And if they wanted to wait another 6 months or so, okay, now you're talking about 3 years. But they made a decision. I can respect the decision. I disagree with the decision. Listen, life goes on. People stop. The world does not. All right. So, yeah, that's a very interesting question. we all know, everybody comes in here knowing that the main person that may have attracted them to the very first one is not going to be in the movie. And that whatever they try to dress up and make Black Panther, whoever, it's not the guy that they went to see in the last one. Now, there's no way around it not being Chadwick Boseman. He is passed. But
which is why I think they should not have called this movie Black Panther. I think they should have just said Wakanda Forever and just left it at that.
I think if they needed time, however much time that they needed to make a Black Panther movie with the Black Panther, not a stand-in for Black Panther, not a substitute Black Panther, T'Challa. However much time that they needed to get to the point where in their headspace they could make the Black Panther movie that they were going to make, take that time. But it's still going to make a lot of money. It's still going to be a great movie. But that's a fair question, Abraham. I mean, I don't know. I think so.
They've also confirmed that Namor is going to be a mutant in Wakanda Forever.
Off script, wasn't in the thumbnail, wasn't part of what I was going to talk about, but I should have brought this up. I am going to go into depth. Namor is not a mutant. Timestamp this. I said it. I said it right now.
He is
I don't
a mutant.
care what
they
say now. What they say now. I'm going to give you a history lesson. Yeah, call me old. Fine. 1990, April 1990. All right, X-Men books are at the height of their sales. They're about to release Jim Lee's X-Men, Chris Claremont's X-Men, one of the best-selling comic books of all time. All right, nothing else is selling. It's Batman and it's the X-Men. All right.
And Spider-Man.
No, Spider-Man sales are hurting out there because after Todd McFarlane left that run, this Amazing Spider-Man, there was a gap in between. But yeah, the summer after all this, yeah, that Spider-Man title, as long as he was on it. But April 1990, Namor up until the 40s, where Namor was created, up until April 1990, Namor wasn't a mutant. There was no mention of Namor a mutant. Reason why Namor is a mutant is because John Byrne had started that title. Now, other than Chris Claremont, the person most responsible for the X-Men's rise to that point in 1990 was John Byrne. He and Chris Claremont, we've gone over this in our show, had one of the most memorable runs any pair has ever had in comic books. All right, it's up there with the best of them. John Byrne had started a Namor the Submariner comic book. They wanted it to sell. So they put on the top of it, and you can look at we were looking at the other day, the world's first mutant, or Marvel's first mutant. BS. Okay, he is not a mutant. Now, ultimately, Namor is whatever Marvel Comics wants him to be. But if you play by their rules, Namor is not a mutant. All right, what Namor is a hybrid with predictable traits from that particular unit.
Okay, so what the way it was explained, and I've done some research on Namor. The way it's now explained is that he is a hybrid, like you said. Yes, he is Homo Mermanus, but he is also, from his human side, born genetic with an X factor.
It's not an X factor. It's not an X factor. You know why? Namora and Namorita. All right. The same they were born under the same exact circumstances and have the same exact traits because those are predictable traits from that union. It's like if I were to marry a lighter skinned person and I had a kid, we know what the predictable traits of that kid. If I were to marry an age, we have predominant features about us that are going to come about, that are going to look like a combination of the two, but not necessarily one or the other. Now, the term mutant, as it was used in Marvel all the way up to that point, and even beyond that point, was the random genetic X factor that was unpredictable and everything else. That's why most mutants have different powers. Their circumstances, everything else. This is a predictable outcome from those two. So it is logical to assume that every human that mates with an Atlantean is going to have those same features, since everyone that did and produced a child had the same exact ones. He's not a mutant. He's not even a mutate. Those are genetic characteristics. You see what I mean? Because you like I said, the random X gene was what the entire X universe was based on. It was a marketing ploy. They wanted, and he even said, I remember sitting in my comic book store back in 90 about this, and we were laughing at it because and it would come on a little piece of paper. Every issue of Namor, place next to your X titles to increase sales. That's what they did. This is not no scientific. They can come up with any explanation they wanted to. If he's anything, he's a mutate, but he's not even a mutate because he wasn't mutated beyond that. Those are the genetic characteristics that come from those two beings. He's not a mutant, and the term and the definition that they have used all the way up to this point. Now, marketing wise, like I said, X-Men was selling like bonkers in 1990. Look at the numbers of X-Men 99. I can tell you what they were. X-Men, those were the books. And you did two things to get your Marvel books to sell. You put an X on them, or you put a mutant on them, or you claim that they were a mutant, or they all of a sudden got some mutant power that they didn't have before, and now their old powers have been retconned. That's what you did to sell comics when this came out. But prior to April 1990, there was no mention of Namor as a mutant. I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, fine. But if the X-Men books had been tanking in 1990 and getting canceled in 1990, Namor would not be a mutant. That's pure and simple. All right. I think it's hilarious, but not going to affect the quality of the movie. But I just think it's hilarious because 16-year-old me is sitting back in Lone Warrior Comics in San Bernardino, just going back and forth. And I'm in biology class because it's my sophomore year and advanced biology and all this, and we're just going at it. Us comic book geeks are going at it. We're bringing textbooks and shit to the comic book store. I mean, we're already nerds to begin with, but we just went at it. I mean, we would have 2-3 hour conversations, and like we knew, and they just as admitted as much that it was a marketing ploy to get Namor a book that would have struggled without two things. And John Byrne only reason they let him resurrect that book is because he had done a great job with She-Hulk. All right, that's
actually, Namora was also a half-breed like Namor.
Exactly. And she has the same traits. So and
they consider her a mutant too.
Which is nonsense, but that's fine. I mean, it's not going to end the world, but I just think it's hilarious that for marketing purposes, we changed Namor, a character that's been around, 40 years? And then up.
80 years now, 80 years.
Yeah.
1939.
But when they did it, though, when they did it, it was they first called him a mutant was in April of 1990. Yeah. So, yeah, that was nonsense. He's not a mutant. He is a hybrid with predictable traits of that union. Like I said, and you don't even have to be a superhuman power or anything like that. There are certain characteristics, even ethnicity. There's certain characteristics that certain ethnic groups have that are going to be dominant features and are going to be hybrid features once those two unions go together. Like I said, if I marry someone outside of my ethnic group, we're going to have different traits. All right. If that ethnic group, say for instance, the average height of a certain ethnic group is 1, and the one I marry into is drastically different, that person is going to get those traits. Those are predictable traits, but the mutagenic gene was not predictable. That's why it was called the X gene. X meaning we don't know where it came from. So I think that's hilarious. But we went way.
Okay, before we get too far behind, I want to speak to Azteca's last comment.
Where is he? Where we at?
It's the Hellraiser comment.
Is it down at the bottom? Oh, here we go. That's it?
It's right there. Oh, no. He's got a Hellraiser comment. I think it's after the Wolverine comment. Yeah, that one right there. Yes, it's actually very the next Hellraiser movie is actually very close to the original story, The Hellbound Heart. And everything that I'm seeing and all of the early reviews that I've heard from people I actually trust, they say it's a really good movie.
One particular endorsement came from a guy who I got to meet. We've had him down here, and he's talked about Hellraiser while we had Hellraiser playing behind him was Doug Bradley. We both share the same birthday, 7th. He has endorsed it, saying,
yeah.
Great. So
yeah, Doug says she's done really good. Actually, he was just on Twitter yesterday endorsing it. He said that she did really well. They were just here in Texas at Fright Fest weekend. They did a screening of it at Fright Fest weekend down here in Houston, and Doug Bradley and all them were down here at Fright Fest weekend, and they were talking about it. So yeah.
All right. So this is actually one of the topics. What do you think about director Pratham Tariq leaving the Blade reboot before starting? Not a good sign since it was 6 weeks away from production date starting. and it comes from the old creative differences, which is, I mean, all right, we're getting into Star Wars territory. This is one of the things I do agree when people criticize Kathleen Kennedy is there's a lot of people that are shifting around due to creative differences. Didn't you have this conversation when you sat down and you talked to this guy and you hired this guy and you told him this is what we're going to do? I mean, you have a 2-time Academy Award winner sitting on the sidelines waiting for this movie to be made. How did you not when things happen this close to production date? That means you have plenty of time for them not to happen. So yeah, that is concerning to see something like that happen. It's not shocking to see something like that happen in general because it happened, but generally it's a lot further back in the process. In 6 weeks, I mean, 6 weeks, you're talking about less than 2 months. You're starting to roll film and you're starting to fly people out to be in places. So the fact that it's happening like this soon. That's very disturbing. I'm wondering what led to it. I mean, what creative differences sprouted up that weren't there when you agreed to the project or when they told you words of communication breakdown.
Sounds like there might be. It sounds like there might be some rewrites going on because there were only a couple of action scenes. They said, and just some general lack of, I guess, story. I don't know. I just know that I'm hearing that there's going to be rewrites done while they're looking for another director.
Let me see this because, like I said, the big problem I have is why now? I mean, don't you have that don't you have that together to the point where you've been doing this comic book movie making thing for quite some time? All right, Maurice DeCree out as Blade director 2 months before production, less than 2 months actually. All right, so Hollywood Reporter broke the news on Tuesday night that Tariq parted ways with the project just 2 months before production was set to begin in November in Atlanta. The movie currently has a release date from Disney and Marvel Studios on November 3rd, 2023. That is not going to happen now. The cast also includes DeRoy Lindo and Aaron Pierre. Okay, Pierre. Due to continued shift in our production schedule, but some is no longer moving forward as director of Blade, but will remain executive producer on the film. So this might be something where, like you said, there might be some scripting issues. It might not be just him walking away like that goes. But if the movie's not ready for him, my concern is if the movie's not ready for them, how does that happen? This isn't their first comic book movie. You know what I mean? This isn't, this isn't 2008. So yeah, to answer your question, that is very concerning, Chappie. Yeah, Gangster Paradise for life, man. That and Amish Paradise. And even though Coolio said he didn't like that, I will quote Word Out. He signed it. He took the check. So, but listen, Amish Paradise is hilarious, and this is from a non-comedy guy. Yeah, you know what? I don't know. I mean, because people say that they make these announcements to do that, and man, that who knows? That may be true. But that's the only people who seem to think about that is the hardcore 1%ers that are like hanging around on YouTube and Twitter looking for headlines. We're like moths to a flame. The general public is not even going to know who the hell this director is. So why go through all this trouble to make an announcement for the 3% of people who actually care about it to this level? You know what I mean? It's the world to us because it's all of our interaction. But I mean, why? I mean, they're announcing it because it's something that happened, and it's probably going to delay the release of their movie. But releasing it alongside of the Deadpool release, I mean, Abraham, you could be 100% correct. If you're correct, then my question is why? I mean, why would you think that you would need to make counter announcements? And they say this about DC too. Well, DC only released this because this was going bad. I'm like, you guys think not you, Abraham, but people in general, and I see them everywhere, think that the rest of the world is walking around with their laptops and their phones like this, and they're like, what's next? What's Zaslav doing next? Most of these people don't know who this guy is. The people who are buying tickets to Warner Brothers movies right now do not know who David Zaslav is. We do. We should, but, most of the people are like, All right, so, yeah, let's can't wait for Hell. There's Friday. Yeah, so let's – all right, so let's jump into now that Antonio Inoki thing really threw my brain off. We've already talked about Hugh Jackman, so I don't need to bring up the article for Hugh Jackman. Let's bring up the two BS articles that I think that the fan space has run with a little bit too fast. All right, the first one is let's see, Windows, entire screen. The first one is going to be this Discovery for sale shit.
Oh god, that's so stupid. It's not even funny.
When this came out, everybody was like, "Oh, they're just turning it over, and there's nothing that's going to mean anything for long term because all they're going to do is flip it over, and they don't even care about anything long term. So much for the 10-year plan." When posed to being, I guess, whatever chats some of them we're in mutually, and some of the people that I always talk to, first of all, the rules, the law prohibits you from even talking about another sale after a company has been merged and soon. The end of 2024 is as soon as that this could ever happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I could be 100% wrong, but there's nothing that he's put out that indicated.
They actually came out today and said that it's not for sale.
That's the article. I didn't have the article up. Oh, sorry, guys. Here we go. That's what they was talking about. I'm a little bit behind there. I thought I pushed the wrong button. Hey, at least I didn't disconnect the damn stream. Could be worse.
There we go.
Yeah, it is that Comcast was going to buy it, and like I said, there are certain legal things and certain time limit things that make this to where I don't think it's going to happen. I think Comcast, even if Comcast got involved, would be just to drive up the bidding so their competitors wouldn't get it. I don't think Comcast would buy this company. I don't think that the people who just purchased it, I don't think there's enough profit margin that you bought, and Comcast would have to assume all their debt within a 3 or 4 year period. That's not going to happen. All right, it's just not going to happen. And I just don't get any indication that these guys weren't in this for the long game. But everybody put this, once again, this is one of those headlines where people got the headline, and now the sky is falling with Warner Brothers because they're just in it to make a quick buck and flip it like a house. And so now the horse's mouth, the guy who knows more about the situation than any YouTuber, than any Twitter head, than any blogger, than any scooper, the horse's mouth is spoken. And remember, yeah, he could be lying, but you get held accountable when you're a CEO because whenever you say something, your stock goes one way or another. So you could be adversely affecting stock by saying bullshit. So he's not going to get up there and say bullshit. He doesn't need to. He doesn't need to lie. If he wanted to, to do that with the company, he could clearly do that when the time is. I mean, like I said, we have almost 2.5 some odd years before there's even a remote possibility, and the landscape of these companies changes day by day. So to think that he was just flipping it I always thought it was ludicrous. I always suspected it was BS, even when it was reported by what was alleged respectable trades. But there you go. David Zaslav has come out and said it. And let me go ahead and read this. Warner Brothers on Wednesday held a company-wide global town hall with CEO David Zaslav and his top creative deputies discussing the current state of the company and their vision for where it should be going. Zaslav has joined in the room by Chief HBO Chief Casey Bull, who I'm very happy to see has stayed on with the company. By the way, I thought he's one of the few other leftover regime that did great stuff. Warner Brothers film chiefs Michael DeLuca and Pam Amdi, and Warner Brothers TV topper Channing Dungry, according to an attendee. The executives acknowledge the disruption and difficulty all media companies are facing in the current environment and the challenges in integrating Warner Media and Discovery, noting that it is difficult to say goodbye to colleagues who have left the company amid reorganizations. That's life. And Zaslav also emphasized that he and his team are committed to long haul as pure play content company, and is not thinking about any other deal making despite rumblings about sale talk down the line. WBD is absolutely not for sale, Zaslav told us in the attendees, highlighting the company's assets and global reach. We have everything we need to be successful, and he does. Zaslav and the other top executives also touted their respectable lines of business. HBO Max getting a shout out for the recent House of the Dragons launch. In fact, Zaslav touted WBD's traditional linear TV businesses in helping the Game of Thrones prequel succeed, noting that the networks reach more than 30% of Americans, giving them a substantial impact. At Warner Brothers TV, so we don't need to go into a lot of that. But the main line is, we're not just reading the headlines. This is what he said. And he said that in basically a forum that is as public as you can get. He meant for that to get out. So yeah, so all that going on. So like I said, I heard that headline, and like I said, everybody ran with the headline. And here's what I think is unfair for any company. It seems like these headlines and these Rolling Stone articles, they have a pattern. I just can't see what it was. They all seem to be aimed at a particular place. All right, and people who want to basically wear the badge of Warner Brothers Sky is falling under Zaslav, all cling on to these things immediately. They don't sit and wait. They don't do any research. They don't wait to hear from more credible people. They go with these headlines and they just go. They're like running in the dark in a maze. And guess what happens when you do that? You literally run into a wall and look stupid. So there you go. All right. So where are we at here? All right, Chappie. This might be a hot take, but I honestly think they should have recasted the character. No, that's not here. That's a hot take amongst people, a lot of people, but in this audience, me, or at least me, I don't know what they think. I think they should have recasted him. I don't think T'Challa did not die with Chadwick Boseman. All right, and the character is not about him. And I'll say this over and over again. Chadwick Boseman and the cameraman and the director and everybody who worked on that movie was an asset to tell that story. They are not the story. They are an asset to tell the story. They are not the story. There will be a story about Chadwick Boseman, and it will be a beautiful story about his life, the people he touched, his relatives, everybody, the charity work he did, the inspiration that he was to little young black men, little boys when they saw him on that screen. There will be a beautiful story to tell about Chadwick Boseman. The Black Panther is not Chadwick Boseman's story. The Black Panther is T'Challa's story, and that story needs to go on. So that's no, that's not a hot take here. That is actually, at least with me, it's not law. But here's the thing: when it comes to stocks and stuff, listen, I purchased a couple of stocks, purchased some Warner Brothers and AT&T stocks every now and then. And when it comes to selling of companies, there's just so much stuff that they have to let you know on. And like I said, all right, let's see. What is wrong with this? StreamYard is acting goofy, by the way, guys. I'm clicking on your comments and not coming. Comic book movies are hardly ever comic book. No, they're not. They're not. Comic book movies are the spirit of it. Civil War was nothing like Civil War for the most part. Secret Wars is not going to be like Secret Wars. And that's fine. I mean, I don't expect them to, because that they're not writing a comic book. They're making a movie. So I'm okay with when they take liberties to that. So, now if they go completely crazy, I mean, to where the characters are not even recognizable as a character, that's different. But all right. Yep. We're talking about Submariner. So, hey, by the way, if you guys disagree with Submariner not being a mutant, you're wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
I completely disagree with you. I think you're wrong.
Wow. I never know how far I'm going to make it into the stream until we have to get rid of Thade for technical. Is he in Florida? I hope he's doing it. No, he's not. He's out of hurricanes. He's in Texas. Damn, I can't use that excuse. Hey, by the way, guys,
I'm in Texas, man.
If you guys are in Florida right now,
be safe.
I'm not a religious guy, but I am praying for you. I've seen the mess that Ian has made. I see the messes that these hurricanes do, and every time I see it, it blows my mind. I know everybody cannot get out of Florida. Everybody says, "Why are they staying there? Not everybody can leave?"
My sister and her new husband lived down there, but they went up to his parents' place in Kentucky, so they were out of the way. Like they left before the hurricane. So
you got a lot of people who don't have any place to go, even put gas in their cars to make a long enough trek to get out of harm's way. So for those of you who could not get out, I'm hoping you are making it through right now. If you're watching this stream, that means you got power and internet, which is better than a lot of people in that region are dealing with right now. So stay safe in these damn hurricanes, man. Because like I said, these natural disasters, it's a tough one. It's like billions and billions of dollars in damage to recover from that. All right, Abraham, have you guys seen the new Variety article projecting Black Panther? Oh yeah, we did that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's gonna make I don't know if it'll make $1 billion as quickly as Black Panther did for the reasons we've talked about. I still think it's gonna make a lot of money. It could be an Academy Award nominated movie. So even if it doesn't make it on the front end, once it gets nominated, I just judging from I have no inside sources, but it has a look and feel of a movie that gets nominated. And if it gets nominated, then it stays in theaters longer, and you get, it won't be on Disney Plus anytime soon. It'll be in the theaters, so it'll cost its billion. I don't know how easily it'll cost its billion. I do think the fact that it's not T'Challa will make it slower to that billion. But I think once people see this movie and walk out of the theater and say this is a breathtaking movie, word of mouth will carry it over. The decision, like I said, it is a sequel without the subject. But we also don't know what's going to happen in this movie. Dude, for all I know, a brand new T'Challa could come jumping out of the day, and then I'm proven wrong. And I'm hoping that would be the case. I don't know or don't have any idea.
Well,
but
the rumor that I'm hearing, and we'll know in a couple of months. We'll know in a month and a half at least, because it comes out in November. But the rumor is the his love interest in the first movie. She's probably pregnant with his child. Also, they talked about after Secret Wars, we may have a new T'Challa, but they're waiting for Secret Wars because of the multiverse.
Yeah, it's like that's fine,
And it's not 5 years away, William. You're being hyperbolic. It's 3.
Okay. Whoa, I'm sorry. Years down the line. All right, so we covered that, and let me bring up the other Warner Brothers BS. I'm not a shill for Warner Brothers, but I think after we have waited all this time for proper management and somebody with a clue and with a vision, whether we agree with every nut and bolt of that vision. We've waited since 2013 for there to be a crew involved that actually takes this stuff seriously and is actually willing to make the tough decision, make it work. I think they're taking a lot of undue BS by people who just want to read headlines and it seems smarter than they are. Sorry, read the whole damn article. And this one right here was
Shri. Hi, Shri said hi to me down there.
Hi, Shri. All right, here we go with this. So, all right.
Well, we said before when the merger happened, we said that it would take up to 2. It could take up to 2 years before any decisions are made.
Yeah,
and I think it was
a lot quicker than I thought. So
I thought it was Sean O'Rourke. I think it was Sean O'Rourke who said earlier that people expecting it to happen in 24 hours is just not going to happen.
Yeah, it didn't get eroded. It didn't get degraded in 24 hours. I mean, where were all these people the past 9 years when we were trying to chase this knucklehead management from the company? We couldn't get anybody. We were called whiners. Now you got a guy that came in that's actually doing stuff, and now they want to shoot him down. Now they're the whiners. All right, so, and I am reading this tongue in cheek for the nonsense that I believe.
This is horribly stupid.
Warner Brothers sued for allegedly embellishing subscriber numbers. In a new report from The Wrap, Warner Brothers Discovery is being sued by Illinois-based shareholders Collinsville Police Pension Board in a class action lawsuit for allegedly misleading shareholders about the number of subscribers for HBO Max. The lawsuit states that during the merger of Warner Brothers and Discovery, they overstated the number of subscribers to HBO Max by as many as 10 million, by including the subscribers AT&T customers who had received bundled access to HBO Max, but had not signed on to the service. It names Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav and CFO, Chief Financial Officer Gunther Weidenfels, as defendants and could potentially have hundreds of thousands of plaintiffs. They are seeking a jury trial for monetary damages and alleged 3 independent Securities and Exchange Commission violation. That's where we're going to get to the bullshit. Discovery shares were initially valued at $24.78 in April of this year, while current value of WB stock is valued at $11.32. Vulture has reached out to Warner Brothers Discovery for a comment, and they should not comment on this. Okay, so what they are accusing them is not just a grievance. They're accusing them of a federal crime. They're basically accusing them of fraud. Now, the reason why these mergers take as long, almost a year that this one took along, because SEC is looking through all of this. They're looking through all of this. And that pension guy has the guy who represents, anytime you have a fund, whether it's a 401k, anything like that, you have a representative in the room that is acting on the behalf of your money. He had everything that he needed to. They all had this in front of them when they agreed to the merger, because if they were stockholders, they all had to be in on it because there was their stock purchases that allowed it to happen. So they had full disclosure. The SEC, the Securities Exchange, had all disclosure of this. And then we're not talking about just stuff that Warner Brothers hands them. It's like the IRS. The IRS will audit you. They're not auditing you because they have a suspicion of you doing some shit. They have the counter information versus what you submitted. So the SEC is not just going on what Warner Brothers Discovery and Warner Media presented. They already had information on that in order to approve this. Now, the problem here is that's item 2, really, not item none. Item 1 is that at no point in time, every time I saw any article about HBO Max's subscription, it included all of that. It included the AT&T people, and this is how I got my subscription. It included the AT&T people. It also included, for full disclosure, the people who had HBO proper that had access to HBO Max. They never hid that. They never hid that. I can pull up, you can Google right now and backdate the articles. They never hid that. So you're accusing, first of all, you're accusing a company of fraud, and you're basically saying that this got past the SEC, and the fact that this is, they're saying, well, they violated SEC. The SEC had this all in their lap before they approved the sale. They had to have this. Everybody involved had to have this in order to determine the initial stock offering that the people who approved the merger had. Everybody had this in front of them. Now, you may not like the fact that your stock went down from 24 bucks a share to 11 bucks a share. That happens in a merger, especially when you buy a company that has that much debt. It has as much debt as it does value. So, and if you were going to sue somebody, if you think that you've been misrepresented, you sue your representative that sat in on all these, that was part of all these, that represented your fund, but you're not going to get anywhere there either, because where did they hide that? How many times did I've seen in any article in parentheses that this includes AT&T people like me who signed on. This includes people HBO Max. This includes people who they always broke that down. That was common knowledge. You're suing somebody over something that can be easily disproven with Google. And if I'm the judge, I'm like, do you have a computer? I mean, we can solve this right now. I doubt this case goes anywhere. But once again, it was another BS headline that people ran with, just like the one we had before. People had the headline. Most of the people who reposted about this stuff have never bought a stock, never owned a stock, probably don't have a 401k, probably never been part of any type of retirement fund where you have a representative that does that. You even a low guy, my Home Depot, it's like even a low guy like me who owns crumbs of Home Depot stock, you get an email whenever there's a decision that's about to be made, anything, you get a vote on some of that stuff. Every one of these guys had to vote or proxy vote. But once again, if this is his accusation, he's accusing them of something, hiding something that's been literally a 4-year-old could have dug this up. So, yeah. What do you think about this, Dave?
I think it's BS, man. I think that, it's just proof that anybody can sue anybody in this country, in this day and age, which, I've always said, I've said since I was younger, you can sue anybody you want to. And I just think this is just some stupid allegations, man.
Yeah. This is, like I said, let's see. All right. I think the problem is, as he's used to making cheap reality TV shows for Discovery. You can't really do that. I don't think he's trying to do that. I've heard a lot of people say that. I've heard people on other streams saying just using what he's done with Discovery and thinking that's what he's going to. He did what he did with Discovery because that's the kind of resources that he had with Discovery. You weren't dealing with a multi-billion-dollar corporation at the time. You weren't dealing with Warner Brothers. You weren't dealing, and the mission was different. The mission with Discovery and its networks is a different mission than Warner Brothers, and dealing with things like DC and IPs. Some of the IPs alone are worth billions and billions of dollars, and in some cases prices if you consider how much revenue you can generate from them. I don't think he's making cheap stuff, because if you look at it, you're not going to. I get the sense from David Zaslav that he will spend the money where it's necessary, but you won't see things like Wonder Twins. You won't see stupid stuff that is not worth the money he's spending. But you see him, they're going to continue to spend a boatload of money on anything Game of Thrones. That includes the stuff that's greenlit beyond his tenure.
They said as much at the investors meeting. They said that they're only going to spend on things that they think is going to make it.
Yeah. And are going to be a waste of money, or is it a different profit? I personally don't expect real DC news. I expect news sooner. And the reason I think that, and the reason I'm saying this, no inside information, I think Black Adam is going to be, one way or another, is going to change the conversation. I'm not saying it's going to be the greatest movie since Ben-Hur. I think there are certain things that are going to happen when it comes to Black Adam. I think we can all figure that out. We could all be wrong, but I just feel it now more so than I ever have, that there are going to be things that happen with Black Adam that change the tone. And once that happens, I think that will accelerate a lot of the decision making. I think that big gap between Black Adam, Shazam 2, and Flash will start to close. And once that gap starts to close, it's a lot easier for us to get excited about it and start having positive conversations. I could be wrong. You could be right, Ryan. I think that Black Adam is going to be the key to what happens the next 18 months for me. Not on its own, but as far as where it goes, it's the starting pistol for where I think they're going to go. And I do believe that Henry Cavill, a full version of Henry Cavill, is in Black Adam. And I do believe, because of what he said, I think David Zaslav values the Trinity. I don't think he is in the business of waiting around, even though he has a 10-year plan. That's a 10-year plan to establish something new. That doesn't mean you throw away what you have. You have a viable actor in Henry Cavill. You have a character that's recognized as the most, who's playing one of the most famous superheroes of all time. You strike while the iron's hot, and I think that's what's happening. That's why Black Adam and some of these things have been delayed. But like I said, we'll have to wait. I hate saying we'll have to wait and see, but we're not psychics. So. Okay, Chappie. I don't know if you guys heard, but Tina Gula I'm hoping I pronounced that right, is working on the Flash soundtrack and the score with Ben Walsh. I always fuck this guy's name up, and I know him because I know his work, which is exciting. All right, so that last guy, the guy who I just jammed up his name, I know of him because he did the soundtrack. Not only did the soundtrack for he helped Hans Zimmer do Blade Runner. He did Seawall. If you want to feel better about your day, Google Seawall Blade Runner. Oh my goodness. But he also did Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Look up version 15. It is from he's great. So yeah, you're right, Chappie. That is something to be excited about. All right. So yeah, that lawsuit. I think this lawsuit should get thrown out of court. I'm not a lawyer, but
it's frivolous as hell. It's frivolous as hell from what you were reading.
Yeah.
There's no point.
And I talked to my lawyer just as a conversation piece, and this is and the problem is they're using headlines to get publicity like this. They're using a company's reputation like this to get to strengthen a negotiation to see if they can settle something out of court. You don't do that when you have a case. I don't think they have a case. I think the case should be dismissed. And what sucks about this is these bullshit headlines that come up here, they hit the ground with all the bluster and all the fireworks, right? But when something is disproven or something is that's not happening, that story gets buried on the back page. No one hashtags that. They hashtag the BS, but they won't hashtag the actual what comes out, the exoneration or whatever it is. Warner Brothers not being for sale. I haven't heard too much. I've heard it in other places, but when I saw that article's plastered all over my timeline, was plastered everywhere. Oh, they're going to flip Warner Brothers, and it's going to be blah blah blah. All right, and then people were telling me, and I told them, hey, number one, the SEC is not going to let that. Might not even let that happen. There's a lot of lawsuits that'll happen in between there. Reason being is because of the Disney thing. People were saying, the precedent has been set because Disney was allowed to buy Fox. And that prevented them, so they can't use a monopoly excuse. No, absolutely not. Because Disney purchased Fox is why you could use a monopoly excuse. Because each time a company does that, that's less and less ground for equal opportunity, less and less ground for talent to go to other places. So you're creating a much smaller circle for people to operate in. Each time it happens, it gets harder and harder for the next one to happen because there's less opportunity for workers, people in the trade to go anywhere. So just because it happened with Disney being out of Fox is because of that. You're shrinking things down to a couple of studios, and once you only have a certain amount of people, you have what's called collusion. Collusion is basically where the three or four companies that are in charge can pretty much set the marketplace where they want to. So if they don't want to pay a certain amount, they all get together and say, this is the top amount we're going to pay. We're only going to pay $30 an hour for these union guys, or $40 an hour, and that's it. And they all agree on it. Now, that is illegal. Collusion is illegal, and it's an antitrust violation, I believe. But if you have three people, there's no way you'd be able to prove it if you have such a small spectrum of people owning everything. They could drive the prices down. So if three networks say that I'm only paying you $40 an hour or $50 an hour for your thing, and your union wants more, they don't really have to negotiate in good faith because they know you can't go anywhere and get the money you're taking. You have to come back to them, and that keeps their talent where they want it to. That's why these things go through such scrutiny. So Comcast buying, eventually you would only have 2 or 3 major studios. So that's why there's a lot of people that would sue, and they would either win or they would hold it up. So even though they would be eligible for such a sale or talk of a certain sale in 2024, with all the lawsuits, it probably would never happen until like 2026, if it ever happened at all. And by that time, both sides would probably lose interest in it anyway. But according to Zaslav, it's not happening, and I never thought it was going to happen until he says otherwise. Because, like I said, he just can't. The CEO of a company, a publicly held company, just can't get up there and spew bullshit. They can actually be held accountable by law by that. So I'm going to go with his ass on that one. All right, so yeah, here we go with that one. So, all right, so we've covered everything on my thumbnail, except for House of Dragon. It's about to pick up, boy. It's about to pick up. There is some violence coming at us on Sunday night. There are reported to be several people that will be not continuing on forward. For those of you who read the books, kind of keep it to yourselves, but some of it is they've taken some liberties, I've noticed. By the way, if you've all been watching the show, not everything that's happened in the book has happened exactly the way it's on screen. So, which is giving me a lot of faith because it's telling me that, you know what, maybe it's not all written. Because remember, mushrooms, drunken tales are not fat. You know, so it could be, we could clearly be in for some exciting stuff. The trailer for episode 7. You know, you got Queen coming at the princess with a knife, you know, and you got somebody stealing Vagar. I know who that is. You guys haven't seen it yet. I'm not going to spoil it for you. I don't have my spoiler alert on here, but this episode might replace last episode as the best one. We will definitely be on the air. I think I might return to doing my shows downstairs if I can get some scheduling down there. But we are definitely going to go in length about episode 7. I think it's called The Greens and the Blacks, and this is where these last 3 episodes are 7, 8, 9. Last 4 episodes of this first season are going to be the establishment of the Dance of the Dragons, which is all this is leading up to. So, and also after episode 7. There's going to be another time jump. I don't know how long, but it's going to be to the point where all the principals are all grown now. There's no more kids. They are all young adults, and they're all in their roles now after these next couple episodes. So it looks like it's going to be exciting. I really this show is outdone, everything I thought it could ever be. What about you, man?
Oh, God, it's great. I'm enjoying every moment of it.
Well, let's go in the chat. Let's make sure I got all right, Stella. Oh, did you? Okay. All right, so this is in response to something. Okay, Stella, they are canceling pretty much every animated show. I can understand. I can understand why people are frustrated, but I can understand why he's doing it. And this is before I knew what a David Zaslav was, and prior to any merger. I always thought DC should have canned its animated division and sold it off or licensed everything out to someone else. I never thought that that the animation justified even what you're spending on it, and it just didn't bring anything to the table. People always say, "Well, if you don't have anything for the kids to grow up with, then how are they gonna? I'm like, the content that they're putting on the live screen is so drastically different than the content. That's why you have the problem with people who have grown up on the Batman the animated, and then they're going to see Robert Pattinson splitting skulls and running people over and killing innocent people and fiery car chases. You know, that just because they had that stuff back in the 90s doesn't mean that that's gonna cultivate, you know, that you're growing a seed from, you know, you and your animated days. That may be, they tried doing that in the 90s and the late 90s and in the early 2000s by making that Batman that way. But I don't think that necessarily applies in 2022. I have die-hard Batman that are fans of Batman, and they've never watched that cartoon, and that's the majority of people. The viewership of animation just didn't justify the money that they were spending on it. So if you're a company that's $46 billion in debt and you're in your first 3 to 6 months, and you have to be able to show that you can turn this company into profitability so that your stocks don't take, you know, a huge crash. I mean, we're talking about like dollar level. Then you have to have a debt management thing in place, and animation just doesn't make any money. It doesn't make any money. The only time animation makes money is when you have ad revenues and you show it on different networks, but it doesn't even make enough ad revenues because most of the time you show animation is on time where the ad revenues are low. If you look at Adult Swim or Crunchyroll, that stuff is late at night. And I bought advertising time, and if you want to buy cheap advertising time, you buy it after a certain amount of time, after prime time, and it's because it's cheap. So they're not getting a lot of ad revenue from that. You know, it's different when you're talking about, you know, repeating a live action something, you know, 8 o'clock on a Saturday, or 8 o'clock on a Sunday, or on prime time, because those slots are usually occupied by sports and wrestling and everything else. So your ad revenue jumps up. But if you look at what people pay to go see animation, it's just not worth them maintaining it. I thought years ago, 8-9 years ago, that they should have licensed out every animation property that they had, you know. And to be honest with you, and let's go back even further. I never was a big proponent of there being a DC animation to begin with. So that might be a hot take with certain people, but from a business aspect, I just don't think it ever brought anything to the game that was sustainable amongst a generation that actually spends, you know, the money on these things. I mean, you know, if you look at the viewerships on any of these things, they're low. You look at Look at the movies, the animation movies that they have released in theaters. I mean, it's just not something that they need to do. Sell it off or license it. Still keep it under your window. But a lot of this stuff too, like the Batman, the detective one that they were doing, that's not going away. It's going to somebody else. They're going to farm it out to somebody else, which is what they do. They should do. That should not be under DC's banner. Sandman, same thing. So, but Sandman, I think, is actually something they should have brought over to DC proper. You know, spend the money on that, not, you know, because Sandman's bringing you viewership 3 times the size of what animation could bring you. But that's just me. That's my opinion. Don't shoot me. All right. I say, hey, I guess I'm at odds still. I don't agree. I'm going to be the odd man out here. I think they should have absolutely just, you know, unplugged the animation division, handed the cord over to someone else and let them plug it in. Let somebody else lose money on it. You know what I mean? You know, and that's something that, like I said, that shouldn't have been a Zaslav decision. That should have been a 2 or 3 predecessors before decision. That's just my opinion. When you're talking about dollars and cents, and even though these aren't popular decisions, it comes down to the money you're spending here that's not getting you a certain value or a certain response could be spent here on something that can. You know, for every project that's being made, for every Wonder Twins that we're about to blow 75 to 90 million on, or for every, you know, cartoon that you're about to spend money on, collectively that money can go somewhere to something that can actually bring value to the company on a much faster, much larger basis. So I've always been promoted that there should not be a DC animation under DC proper. You know, create a studio, sell it off to somebody, or produce it, license it, so that somebody else is spending the money on it, and then they can air it on your networks as an executive producer. But yeah, I've never been a proponent of DC animation, but you know, I know a lot of people enjoy it, but like I said, there's a lot of stuff I enjoy that doesn't make a lot of money for the companies that produce it. I'm still waiting for Terminator 2 or Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles to come back. I love that show. But the company that made it decided that they didn't get them what they needed for that time slot, and then there was nowhere for it, so it's gone. You know, having an emotional attachment to animation, and being able to sustain and be justified is two different things. You know, emotions don't pay bills, and they don't bring companies out of debt. So unfortunately, all right. I don't care if it was a crappy movie. What movie is he talking about? Okay. Oh, he's talking about the Batgirl. All right, I agree with decision animated, but the Batgirl movie was a crappy movie. Here's the thing, Vince. I understand that from one sense, but on the other sense, I do understand it from theirs. If they're trying to create a brand and a brand loyalty, and they're trying to make a clarion call to the rest of the world that this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to handle it, this is the quality we're going to give you, then they should absolutely not allow anything that is not that quality to ever see the light of day. And it is up to them. It's their IP. If they are going in a drastically different direction, and this is what they want their IP to be, and they don't want any conflicting anything out there, they want you single file or single focused on the product that they're putting out. They have a right to make sure that there's nothing else that is not of the quality that they deem right there. And they absolutely shouldn't. If they decided that Batgirl wasn't going to be the quality of what their mission going forward, they absolutely did the right thing. That's just my opinion. Once again, I'm pretty sure I'm going to follow the minority of that one. So, all right, yeah, there you go. And that, they were going to spend 75 to 95 million on that, dude. And the Wonder Twins activate, you know. I think that I think that after the first weekend of Black Adam, they will announce it. Yeah, that would be the smart thing, or at least something to do with the Justice League where he's prominently featured. And by the way, that if Henry Cavill is in this movie like I think he is, that shit's getting leaked by Warner Brothers. All right, you don't have to worry about somebody leaked it. No, I'm going to tell you who he's going to be. It's going to be Warner Brothers, because they're going to do just like that Venom 2 scene and everybody's going to go to that theater to see that, and I'm going to be one of them. All right, Benjamin Wallace also did the score for Hellboy reboot. Okay, I haven't seen the Hellboy reboot. And the Total Recall remake I did see. Now that's him in the okay, cool. Are you guys somebody that can separate the art from the artist, and even if the director and actor is a terrible person, I personally can? That's a tough one. I used to think I could be that person, because Roman Polanski was accused of rape and all that, had to flee the country, and he won an Academy Award for Powder. But if they're committing crimes, then no, because even in their workspace, they're endangering people, and if they're committing sexual acts and abusing people, then I can't. Once the legal system, not just accusations, once the legal system has stepped in and said, okay, like in Kevin Spacey's case or Harvey Weinstein's case, once the legal system has come in and said, okay, you've done this, then I can't. It's really hard for me to do that. Even whether I should or not is another thing. I can't think of usual suspects, and without thinking about what Kevin Spacey is pretty much being taken to task for. I can't think of certain. I mean, there's a lot of people who like I said, who've gotten their day in court, and it's tough for me, but that's just me.
So for me, like, I love the movie Seven, okay, and Kevin Spacey's in that. And see, I can separate the art from the artist. There's a lot of musical artists that I like their music, don't like them as a person. Okay.
Now, and also, to what level, though? I guess I'm asking, to what level are we talking about? People who are just dealing with accusations and have done some really shitty stuff, or people who have been involved in like crimes, actual in jail, cuffs, R. Kelly level shit?
Well, honestly, the way I see it, William, and this is just my opinion, okay, once the movie or the song or whatever it's out there, that's really public domain. I don't see it as being part of that person anymore. Okay, that person is in it, yes. Now, do I support them further in the future? Hell no. I haven't touched another Kevin Spacey product since I heard what he did, and he's making a comeback, supposedly.
Wow, that's going to be a tough road, boy.
Yeah, I know, right?
Road. I mean, maybe he'll be able to pull it off. You know what? People's people change, man. People's opinion about
But
people
it's
change.
just like
That's why when people say, "Oh, the Flash," oh, nobody's gonna go see the Flash. 97% of the people don't give a rat's ass about what Ezra Miller's going through right now, and
well,
two,
it's
those
like
people are still gonna go see it. Yeah,
it's like for instance with the Flash movie. Okay, more than just Ezra Miller's in that movie. More than just Ezra Miller has made that movie. There are hundreds of people involved, thousands sometimes of people involved with a movie. And I'm not going to down a movie just because of a single actor in it. If we did that, we would have to pretty much ignore every movie out there. Okay.
yeah, over something that's just not going to have that spot in my brain 9 months from now. Sorry, and nobody's, like I said, we move on from stories immediately. So,
yeah. Well, it's like for example, H.P. Lovecraft. The man was a racist. Okay, but his stories are still freaking amazing.
Yeah, especially because he's not even around to tell them too. That's like what it helps. If H.P. Club, if you like George R.R. Martin, I think people would have a problem with his stories if he were alive today. It's because that most people, a lot of them don't know a lot of people don't who know Lovecraft stuff don't know the history, and time has made it to where you can reinterpret things. I mean, we know he's a racist, but a lot of people can. When you have decades and decades and decades since somebody's died, it's like the founding fathers. We know what the founding fathers owned, but we don't look at them in that light hundreds of years later. It's
that's the thing, though. Like, okay, so you also have to look at the time period where these people were raised, okay, and the society in which they were raised. And I'm not normalizing their racism. That's not the point I'm making here. What the point I'm making here is it's a thing that happened, okay? Those people didn't know any better the way they were raised 90% of the time.
Yeah, a lot of them, that was the norm, and there was nobody to hold them accountable. There was no internet to be like, dude, maybe you shouldn't have said that. Well, you know what? Why don't you go out and meet some of these people that you think are this way? Maybe. So, yeah, if you hold people accountable by their time, you could make that argument. Let me get this because I'm about to wrap this up in 2 minutes. I went to an hour and a half again. I said I wouldn't. Damn it. DC animated stuff is great. Hey, like I said, I'm not saying it's awful, but from a business standpoint, I just don't think it makes any sense. But we sell the shit out of stuff at Walmart. Yeah, you do, but got to be careful when it comes to physical media because now you're inviting a middleman into that you got to pay. You know, so it's you have to sell a lot of DVDs because, like I said, even with Blade Runner 2049, it sold $22 million in Blu-rays, but you know, physical media is not the cash cow it was 15 years ago. But hey, like I said, if you guys enjoy DC animation, that's cool. I just asked you to look at it from the sense of somebody who's trying to run a company that has a lot of different responsibilities and a lot of expensive things and a lot of priorities, and understand where that falls on that priority. And
hey, William, I need to make a quick point real quick. Nova Joe, I am not okay in Kevin Spacey's sexual predator nature. Okay, that's not what I'm saying at all, and I don't want people to misinterpret what I say. I am not cool with the fact that Kevin Spacey is a sexual predator, but that's not going to stop me from watching a movie that came out 20 plus years ago. Okay. I mean, like I said before, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to do that with most movies out there, most media in general. There's a lot of people in the industry that are not good people. But to boycott everything because of an actor or because of a director is just it's disingenuous in my opinion.
I'm gonna respond to that my own way. Navajo, I think I'm pronouncing that wrong. I do feel uncomfortable watching Freddy from Spacey stuff because of what he is accused, what he's accused of and being held accountable for. I just as a personal preference, I cannot look at his work in the same way as I can once I've heard what was graphically depicted and admitted to and stuff like that. I'm different now. Racism against minors, yeah, that's I can't. Now, when it comes to racism, trust me. Somebody who's been these people have been targeted of just a little bit of racism here and there. What I can understand when it comes, I can't understand the racist mind, but the context of where these people were living in and what was going on around, they were wrong. 100% was wrong. But there's a lot of people who will pick up Lovecraft and adore Lovecraft because they don't believe that the stories that he wrote were directly, even though in some cases they were, they don't have that connection to the person. I think it would be a lot harder for them to read Lovecraft if it were like I said, J.R.R. Martin sitting up there spewing off racist BS. But things get lost in antiquity sometimes. And there are a lot of people who wrote some of the best things out there, unfortunately, that grew up in the 20s and the 30s and beyond, and were writing things that are considered literary classics that were full-blown racist because they grew up in territories where slavery was the norm. They grew up in places where segregation was the norm, and they didn't know anything else. I'm not excusing those people at all. They've made the world harder for us to achieve this American dream. But at the same time, I got to be really careful by judging the present by the past. There are a lot of things.
And Nova Joe's last thing he said there, the very last thing down there.
This one?
Yeah, I do completely agree with you. He should not be allowed to work again.
Yeah.
When I say he's trying to make a comeback, like William said, it's going to be a very hard road to hoe, and I don't think he's ever
doing
going
it
to
with my money. He ain't doing it with my cash. I don't think it's going to happen because that is the price you pay for being
that is the price you pay for your misconduct.
Yeah. So, but like I said, but a lot of literary stuff. How you doing, guys? A lot of literary stuff has been written by people whose past and views are not acceptable in 2022, and that's just a fact. We're gonna have to stop reading and watching. All we can do now is take those stories and interpret them and fit them into the paradise that we live in now. You know, I can take a Lovecraft story, and guess what? There's black people and people of color that are playing in depictions of his stuff all the time. You know, and I make the best out of that. So, but like I said, I can understand where he's coming from too.
The Henry Boy 11 there. As for Ezra Miller, it's not proven that he has been a pedophile. It is an accusation at this time. Until it is proven, I can't make that judgment. Neither should you.
Yeah. So here we go again. Ezra Miller is actually on the ban list, but we'll go ahead and talk about it. And I'll get to the super chat from Fourth 1000. So when it comes to Ezra Miller, like I said, everybody gets their day in court. Everybody gets due process. I mean, it's your choice as a consumer not to go see whoever you want to or not to see whoever you want to. That's always, I'm not going to dispute that. But if you're doing it based on things that have not been, processed through a legal system that we all have access to, that we all should have access to, that's the part I have a problem with. Now, if he goes through his Fourth Amendment rights and he goes through, gets his day in court, gets his due process, and we find out at the other end that these accusations are true 100%, then I might have an issue with going to see a movie. But right now, like I said, serial killers get due process. We have serial killers that admit on TV, I did it, and they get due process. So I'm going to give Ezra Miller his, and we'll make a decision for me when he comes out of the other side of that. If I need to take the Kevin Spacey route there, that's just going to be me. Super chat. I just tried watching. Oh, wow. Oh, dude, I watched both of those this week. I wasn't going to bring them up. I'm sorry, Rob Zombie, but Monsters was horrible. It was horrible.
Yeah, he could have done it really cool.
Yeah. He could have. You know what? I got
he had the budget to do it really cool.
Oh, my God.
My question is, why did he go for a family-friendly movie? Like, that is not his style.
Listen, I like Rob.
Made it really cool.
Yeah, I like Rob Zombie as a filmmaker. I don't like the remakes and stuff he does. I don't like his Halloween movies. No. I like House of a Thousand Corpses. I like Devil's Rejects. I like Three from Hell. I like that stuff. It is a certain group of film lovers who will love that, and that's great. And if he would have done the monsters like that, granted he was probably going to go to hell, but it would have been better than what I watched. Holy cow. It's awful. And I know people who are like, you know what, let's give it a chance. I watched people and sitting right next to me give it 15 minutes, and it was bad, man. And as far as Blonde goes, I watched that one too because that's one of those movies that I thought was going to be an Academy level because Anna de Armas and all that. I'm like, it looked like, okay, if any of you have ever watched an Andy Warhol movie, where basically it's people making movies that are doing experimental stuff, and I'm not just talking about the film process. That's what it was. It's just a jumble. It's like a hallucination that just doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's just kind of overdoes the other elements. Like there's a sex scene in there.
Yeah, I've
I know
heard.
it's a family show. It's a three-way between two very famous individuals. And I'm going to let you go ahead and don't bring up the name.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I
think if we know the history of Marilyn Monroe, we can pretty much assume what the threesome was. And I'm like, I'm all for, sex and all that being the movies where it goes. This movie was just like it's almost like soft Showtime porn with no real substance. It doesn't. And people who like her stuff and think are a fan of Marilyn Monroe, this makes it look like a complete junkie. Oh, Requiem for a Dream. That's what it reminded me of. That movie drove me crazy. That movie drove me crazy because it was just shot all out of sequence. It was goofy. That's what this movie. It's a bad version of Requiem to a Dream. So yeah. If you watch Monsters and Blonde in the same week, you probably need to watch like wrestling or something to cleanse that out of your mind, because it was awful. Did you watch the whole thing, Monsters?
No, we just watched a trailer of it.
You saw the best parts of it.
It's
awful.
I'm waiting to see the whole thing so I can see what it's up. I'm a fan of the fucking monsters. Hey, do you have a comic book called Boris the Bear? He made turtle soup out of the Ninja Turtles.
I used to have Boris the Bear. Not a lot of copies even exist of it.
I know. No, I have a color and I have just a line work one. But I try to collect as many as I can. Not too many people have them. Yeah.
Not too many people even know what the hell that is. Yeah. When you said that, you told me how old you were.
Turtle soup out of the Ninja Turtles.
You just told me you're in your late 30s, early 40s.
I'm 46.
Exactly. You mentioned
wow. Upstate New York, we used to ride our bicycles to 3 hours.
I haven't heard of that one in a while, William.
Shop,
you could only get Boris the Bear in comic book stores too. You could even get it at B. Dalton, or it was only in comic book stores. Yeah. How much are these? These are 50-cent ones? These are $1 ones. 50-cent ones. So,
yeah, Boris the Bear, man. I try to find as many copies as I can and hold on to them.
It's for you,
man. I haven't heard of that book in forever, dude. You and I haven't heard of it
since the early 2000s. Concrete.
He fucking was Punisher Bear. Remember Punisher Bear?
Yeah.
Wow, man. What else from that era? Because that was just some cool stuff, and you could only. Our comic book store would get like 5 or 10 copies of them. They weren't a lot, and because they weren't, that was the era where people just didn't know,
Yeah,
they didn't know about that stuff, man. Boris the Bear.
Yeah, we were diehard. I bought the comic books for the covers to draw them. My friend was collecting comic books. He had collections and.
See, that's what I got into comic book because of the covers.
Yeah.
The covers and the artwork. And I started out as an artist. Before I started opening up this place, I used to draw. And I just lost time for it. The Dustin McFarlane era, all that stuff, that was got me into. But that stuff was usually in black and white. Yeah. And that was what made the artwork even better, because you didn't have the colors for that kind of stuff, especially Boris the Bear. You didn't have it dulling the wow, man. Now I feel old. Oh, yeah. You need a little back on that?
Yeah, please.
Let's see if I can find out.
Thank you.
Yeah, that
Yeah, no, that's when they were cool, real cool. And I mean, comic books is still cool, but there was a whole love for it from that point.
You had what Dark Horse was doing in that time.
Yeah.
You had what Eclipse was doing at the time, and now it's just all mainstream. I mean, stuff like Spawn is considered,
Yeah, my brother worked for Todd McFarlane.
Oh yeah,
he's one of his artists. Yeah, Phoenix. Well, he went north. He's back in Canada now.
We're talking from. Yeah, that's what Todd. So it's McFarlane. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Awesome, thank you, brother. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Wow, Boris the Bear, dude.
Boris the Bear. Wow.
You know what? I'm getting tired of people coming through the door making me feel old.
Right,
man. Oh, Boris the Bear. Okay, I'll stop. Okay, just try. Yeah. Oh, wow. I'm sorry, and I knew I was predisposed to not like monsters because of that trailer. It was on one of my streaming channels. I was like, what the hell? It's really bad. And if you're a fan of the monsters, I am curious because maybe you have a completely different opinion about this. You may have loved it. It's goofy enough to where, listen, I sat next door to fellow soldiers who like dudes with my car. I wanted to rip the seats up out of the theater and throw them at the screen. That movie was awful, and I paid for us to see that. It was my turn to pay for my squad to go see that fucking awful movie, and I felt cheated and ripped off. That movie came out in the 90s. It's 2022. I still want my money back. And
well, I haven't watched.
And they loved it. They're like, dude, I don't know what your problem is, man. You're just mad because you had to pay for it. No, I'm mad I had to pay for some trash. But I sprung for good movies. I sprung for a whole platoon's worth of movies. And if we see a good movie, I'm okay. Money well spent. But thank God.
I haven't seen the Munsters one yet, but I'm going to watch it just to see it for myself.
And I hate to say this because Rob Zombie is one of the most talented people on a bunch of different mediums I've ever seen. Like I said, I wish he would stick to just original IP stuff, his own stuff, because I think that's where he's at his best.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, okay, maybe they're just gonna, this is a trick, and we're gonna tune into this shit, and we're gonna see Herman Munster just ripping people apart and strapping people to cars and stuff. We've been tricked by this trailer, and we're gonna get some old Rob. No, dude, it's horrible. Sorry.
See, I like his original stuff, but I also liked his Halloween's. His version of Halloween was good.
I thought that was a good horror movie. I didn't think it was a good Halloween movie.
It was. I guess opinions different.
You cannot replace Loomis with anyone else. I'm sorry. I hate saying that. I know McDowell did his best, but that role was so good. It typecasted Donald Pleasance, so where he couldn't.
Oh yeah.
Every movie he was in a guy with a trench jacket looking for a killer.
Okay. So my question is, William, you're a fellow horror movie buff. What do you think of the two reboot movies for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Michael Bay's? I liked them.
But they didn't do anything that much different that really added to the original. I mean, they were good horror movies, but those movies were made in a certain time, a certain place, and in a certain revolution of those type of movies. And sometimes it has nothing to do with the remake. It has something to do with the environment that the remake is released into. Like I always say, it's the Red Dawn scenario. When you release Red Dawn in the 2000s and the 2010s, it's not the same movie because we're no longer in the Cold War where the movie was designed about. We're no longer, when you make a Thing movie, if you were to make a Thing movie now, it might be good, but like I said, both Thing movies, both the 1950s and the 80s one, were made in the Cold War, so you'd have to make a different movie. But there's nothing different about a guy hacking people up with chainsaws anymore. Hell, since that movie was made, we saw with Scarface guy get hacked up in a chainsaw much more graphically than that movie ever did it. So even the original one did it. So I just think that with time and environment change, that these remakes kind of lose their sting. There's an atmosphere that was being sold with those movies that you cannot necessarily transpose to now.
Okay, so the Red Dawn remake was made during wartime, though. So I mean, it was relevant to what was going on. They just changed who it was.
Yeah, but it's a Cold War movie. It is a Cold War movie through and through. And
true. And look, we were both raised in that time period, William. I know that those were Cold War movies, but like, I don't know. The remake of Red Dawn worked for me on a different level, I guess, because
as an action movie, no, I'm not knocking it. But as a Red Dawn, see, that's what I mean. These movies aren't bad. I'm not saying there's awful movies, but just you're trying to live off of Red Dawn. It's a different movie. It's a different time. Give it a new movie. Give Liam Hemsworth Action Pack or something, or Liam Hemsworth the Viper, or whoever he was. One of the Hemsworth brothers was in that. Rename it something and say it's something else. Then okay, I'm okay with that. But when you're remaking something, you're trying to keep the spirit of what was remade, and the spirit of Red Dawn was the Cold War. Now, not to knock this new movie, but we've taken the spine out of what made that movie what it was and putting the name on it. It's like, I don't know, man. Try it. Okay. Because it was based on the OG show, that stuff doesn't work. Okay, no. Okay, Vince. If you're talking about Mercer, I'm sorry. I'm trying not to laugh, dude. I'm trying not to discount what you guys are saying. I don't know if this works on any level, but you listen. If you are the guy that leave a comment after you guys have watched it, if you enjoyed it, hey, tell me what you enjoyed it. Tell me what you liked about it. I watched. I couldn't understand what he was thinking. I was, like I said, I was waiting for the old Rob Zombie violence to come out and take over the movie. I'm like, maybe we can still save this movie.
And see, that's what I wanted. I wanted an adult. I wanted a Rob Zombie Munsters. I didn't. Now I'm hearing it's family friendly, which bothers me. He wasn't built to make family friendly movies.
Yeah. Okay, if you notice, thanks to the super chat, 4,000. If you notice, there's not one shot of a person visibly getting chainsaw on Jessica Biel. Nah. And see, you're violating the laws of the 3Ds. Give it to me.
Well,
give it
William, though, by that fact, the original Texas Chainsaw didn't show anybody getting chainsawed either.
It's like I just said, what the movie that does show, when even in Scarface, you see more in the guy getting chainsawed in the shower in Scarface than you do in all one of those movies.
Well, the only thing you really see in the Scarface scene is blood. You don't.
You like a lot of blood, dude.
Yeah, but you don't actually see the saw contact with the body. All you see is the blood squirt on Tony Montana's face.
I would have loved for that to have been what was in the movies, the Chainsaw movies, but
Yeah.
Remember, there's not a lot of blood in some of those movies. Not a lot for me.
The original one, there is no blood.
Yeah.
It's all implied. It's all implied horror.
Yeah.
The only real violence you see in that movie is when he hits the dude in the head with the hammer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Rob Zombie was a production assistant on Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yeah, he was.
By the way, if you guys ever watch Pee-wee's Playhouse again, for those of you who didn't grow up, I mean, I was a teenager. I was 12, 13 when it came out. If you can't see that all the innuendo on that show, all the
that show was freaking horrible.
Nobody realized what was going on in that show until he got caught in that theater doing his thing. Then they're like, wait a minute. What was Cowboy Bob supposed to be? What was Zombie saying? Mecca Lecca High? Mecca Heiny Ho? I do believe that on the Showtime show, wasn't that when Pee-wee was wishing for a girlfriend and Zombie gives him a companion? That show, if you watch the Showtime version of Pee-wee's Playhouse, the little comedy thing he did, I'm surprised he ever got a show on CBS Saturday morning. I'm like, what were you guys smoking? Did you think that people is Viacom on both things? I'm like, what? You watch that show? I'm like, they didn't change a lot. They didn't change enough for me. And I was like, whoa, what did he say? What did he do? And then, you're in a California X-rated theater, doing his thing. I'm like, and everybody's like, oh, now I see it. I'm like, you guys got 4 years to figure this out. But all right, guys, that's going to be it. I went, wow, this is our longest Sci-Fi Center Presents in a long time. I got to run in my mouth. Well, I'm going to have to time the thing. I'll have to just shut down so that I don't go 2 hours. So I still got some stuff here to do. We still got to walk around and visit some of the artists that are at our event. I got to get tomorrow's show ready. I got some wood to cut. I got some baseball to watch, wrestling to watch. There's New Japan stuff on tonight. There's Rampages on at 10 here. I'll speed through SmackDown because it's just not that good. So, all right, guys.
We got a good long show coming tomorrow night, overnight show.
Yeah, well, yeah, because we're going to dive into some of this nonsense that we talked about today, but in depth.
Okay.
So. All right, guys, thank you for showing. We always, anytime you spend with us, we know there's millions and millions of YouTubers out there, and you chose us for this brief amount of time. So thank you. Enosh, thank you on behalf of Enosh, Point Lounge, everybody that makes up that lounge. I thank you. Jump over to my website, www.thescifightcenter.com, and all of our social media, including our TikTok page. No, I do not sing and dance on there, is on there. So you can just click on that and just follow us everywhere. All right, thanks, guys. And just so I don't forget, here's my outro.